Here you go.
You are now rocking with the best. The Big Flo and O Show.
Hello, America. This is Reggie Florima, one half of the Hard Truth, along with my co-host who's feeling ill today, Big Flo. I messed it up. What's up, America? This is one half of the Hard Truth, Reggie Florima, along with my co-host, Oliver Gibson. Together we make the Big Flo and O Show. Today we have a special guest for you, Bertrand Berry. We call him B-Train. Unfortunately, Oliver couldn't make it today. He's a little under the weather. I think he's going to be okay, but we're going to have this special guest on today. For those of you guys living under a rock who don't know who Bertrand is, he played many years in the NFL for the Denver Broncos, played for the Arizona Cardinals, made the Pro Bowl, third-round draft pick to the Indianapolis Colts, and somewhere in the late 90s. I don't want to make it too late. Some of you guys weren't born yet listen to that show, but let's just say this guy knows what he's talking about. So what's up, Bert?
What's up, man? What's going on? How you feeling?
Nothing, man. Just, trying to survive this COVID, going through some stuff, and figured we'd get together. We had a nice little conversation the other day, and I thought we'd make this together and put this with our little podcast that Oliver and I are working on. And what better first guest than you?
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I feel honored, bro.
So what have you been up to? What's Bert been up to since he got out the NFL?
Well, I was doing radio for the longest time because I was a communication major in school, so I was doing radio out here and doing work for the Cardinals and really just trying not to get fat, bro. That basically was the biggest thing, just not blow up, you know what I mean, and try to hold it together, raise some kids, and try to live life,
That's great. How many kids you got?
I got three.
3 children.
Two girls and a boy.
Ooh, yeah, I remember the boy came in last, right?
Yeah, he came in bringing up the rear.
I thought you had a caboose. Caboose, I like that. Yeah, I got 2 myself. Yeah. I had a boy and a girl, and I quit because I was scared if I had 2 daughters, I'd have to buy 2 guns, and then we'd have an arsenal in here. I didn't want to do that, so one of each. Everything worked out. We can still play man-to-man.
Hey, you got tired of those extra plates on the table.
My wife's back pedal's not as good as it used to be, so we went man-to-man defense. That zone, she's trying to cover different zones. It didn't work. 2 kids was plenty. We just made it happen like that. So. Anyway, I did some research, and I see that you have a new business venture called the Train Station. Tell us about that.
So Train Station really came from playing defensive end while I was in the league, and I was doing some work also after playing. And the one thing that I saw was that there wasn't a lot of love for big fellas. There's always gurus for quarterbacks and wide receivers.
Yeah, everybody's a quarterback.
Right? Everybody, DBs and all that kind of stuff, but there was no love for the big fellas. So I wanted to create an environment where big fellas can learn the craft because, as you know, Flo, it's brutal in the trenches, but at the same time, there's an art to it, and if you can master that art, you can definitely parlay that into a nice long career. So the thing that I really wanted to do is give guys an opportunity to, 1, learn the craft, but 2, kind of mentor some of the younger guys and really try to open myself up and pour my knowledge into the young guys and give them an opportunity to have the same chance that I did.
Talk to me about your clientele. Are you getting guys that are trying to go to the NFL, college guys, high school hopefuls, youth football players? What are you saying?
So I started from 13 years old and go all the way up. I've had guys at every stage, and it's a little bit of a challenge because you also have to make sure that the guy is able to learn what you're giving them on their level and on their terms. So you can't teach a 13-year-old the same way you teach a 29-year-old. You kind of have to tailor it for each individual. And if you're going to have multiple guys in, which, obviously that's not the case right now with everything going on, you have to be able to tailor it and adjust and adapt due to your clientele and who you're working with.
Yeah, I coached youth football for a number of years. I think I had 9 or 10 years under my belt from my son, kindergarten to 8th grade. And I always thought it got better as I got older. because all I knew how to do was teach them the way that we learned in school. And when they were
Right.
in kindergarten, I still did the same thing I did in 8th grade. They just didn't. They had to tell them 15,000 times. They still didn't do it. So I want to teach the
Right.
kids how to punch and separate and do different things of that nature. And it was better that I got older because you could see a kid actually improve from your instruction. So I stopped at 13. You started at 13. So it was a lot more fun probably in high school. But I had to lay that stuff down so I could be a dad and just watch my son play. So now, it's interesting because, you have these kids 13 years old. We didn't have that when we were growing up, right? We didn't have the kind of training system. And, my son goes to wide receiver training, and I see quarterback training. People paying hundreds of dollars to just try to get their kid a backup role in high school. That's how much people are investing right now. What do you think of with youth sports right now? The inequities right now with people being able to afford the train station versus the kids that can't afford the train station. What do you think the future is for college sports with kids being trained like that?
Well, for me, I always try to take everything into account. You want to take into account, one, that this is a business, so you have to charge something. Mm-hmm. But I think it's more for love, and it's more for teaching young guys how to be better at all areas of life, not just on the field, because Flo, it's more than just about being on the field. When you are measured off the field, those encounters are just as important. And when you start talking about business and life after sports, people remember how you treated them while you were in it and while you were hot. So it's always good to get that knowledge and learn how to be a professional person, not just a professional athlete, but just a professional person. And I feel like I can offer that, being as that I was on both sides. I was in the league. I'm out of the league now almost as long as I was in the league. So I know that at some point.
Scary to think that, right?
Yeah, it's real scary. But you have to really be able to transition. And while you're in it, you have to be able to navigate through a lot of different things, because when you're in it, there's a lot of people coming at you from a lot of different angles, and a lot of them don't mean you any good. So if I can help guys kind of get through that without having some of the hiccups that you normally see, then hopefully I've done my job. And as far as the price, I try to make it affordable so that everybody can participate. And I look at it like this, Flo. If you are a 13-year-old and you're a parent of a 13-year-old and you want your kid to go to school, all expenses paid. Nowadays, you figure if they're there 4 or 5 years, that's probably anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000.
I think you have the low end right. I don't think you have the high end right. I think you can get up to about $250 when you start thinking about how it's going and how much you're investing in your kids. So you're right. It's a lot of money.
Okay, so on that note, let's just say 200. Mm-hmm. So if I were to tell you, if you were to give me $20,000, and in turn, in 7 years or 6 years, or 5 years, I can give you back $200,000. Doesn't that sound like a pretty good investment to you?
It absolutely does sound like a good investment. Now, how do you treat the kids that come to you and they have the dream? Hey, guys, I want my son to be a D1 lineman. Now, out of every position on the field, the offensive line, defensive line, you got to have some monster genes in you just to have the right size, the long arms. You have to be 6'2" plus and different things of that nature. What do you do to the parent that's got a 5'9" kid and says, I want my kid to play defensive end in college? Can you teach him?
Oh, you got to be honest, and you got to be willing to have a difficult conversation. For me, I don't want to just take your money because it's a business. Yeah, it's easy to come in and just be like, yeah, I can get him right. But if you understand truly that it's not for everybody, right, and if you're real with them and you can direct them in a different direction to where maybe they can have a chance to be successful, then I think you walk away with if nothing else, then with respect from that particular parent. But more times than not, guys come in that look the role, and it's just a matter of really steering them in the right direction and giving them a little bit of guidance to what they do on the field with certain techniques and things of that nature. And if they show promise, then they come back, and you can usually tell who enjoys it and who doesn't. Right. If the kids really enjoy it, then the parents are going to come back because, one, it gives them something to do, and I always try to be positive, Flo. I don't want to be a guy that is a drill sergeant. You know, I want them to enjoy their time on the field with me. We have hour-long sessions, and I want to be able to laugh. I want to be able to joke, but at the same time, we got to get that work in. So if you can get all that accomplished, man, then hey, to me that's a great experience.
Yeah, and I look at that, and I come a couple ways. Guys like me or yourself, and the people that we hung out with and went to college with, you know, we're kind of looking at this as a vehicle. You play sports, hopefully you get a college scholarship, do whatever. But I don't want to minimize that kid that really just wants to be a really good high school kid, who wants to get better. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if the people have the means to do that, you know, I think, hey, some guys want to go there and they want to train. I see kids out there, my son's trained all the time, these quarterbacks that have no opportunity whatsoever to play in college. Part of me says, like, what are you doing? But then the other part of me, hey, I just want to be the best I can be. So I guess, you know, that's something to be said, too, for that.
Yeah, I think anybody that's looking to get extra training, they already kind of understand that their kid wants to do something a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And if you do want to just be better in high school, then, you know, it comes down to, is it worth it to you? And if it's worth the extra time and the extra resources to get your kid that advantage, then more power to you.
Absolutely.
I just feel like if you really want to be great at something, then you go and talk to people who were at that level that you want to be.
Surround yourself by people who care, right? Sounds like somebody we used to listen to, right? If you want to be great, you got to surround yourself by people who care, right?
I mean, you know what I'm talking about? You know, a lot of those lessons, man, it's funny because, you know, we both have our own New Host moments, but a lot of what the man said was actually true, and it's played out in later life. So you have to give him that credit, and you know, a debt of gratitude to Coach Holtz for sure.
Absolutely. Now, I kind of started to go down this line before I asked you this question, and now I'm kind of come back. So I read an article that said about 12% of NCAA athletes are now identifying themselves as first person in their family to go to college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. My parents immigrated from Haiti, you know, so they really didn't have colleges like that in Haiti. I don't know how you were in your house, but a lot of people when we were playing were the first person to go to college. But now that's down to 12%. So what that tells me is it's the college-educated people that have the opportunity to afford what it takes to get there. Because we didn't have training sessions like this. No one did that. Walter Payton used to run up a hill. I found this trash hill that was covered up with dirt that we had in my town called Mount Trashmore. And I would knock on my buddy's door one day at 5 or 6 in the morning and say, let's go run. The next day he wouldn't answer his door. I go to the next house. And that was my training. I ran up there a couple times, backpedaled a couple times, whatever. I didn't know what I was doing. I think it helped me out. It maybe didn't. But nobody was doing anything extra, right? Everyone just did the conditioning they gave you. But now everyone's training extra. Do you feel like the inner city kids and some of these kids are going to start to go extinct in college sports where you can't just be a raw athlete anymore?
I really feel like if you are a kid that's in that situation that you talk about, Flo, if you are really willing to work, there are different ways that you can work around that. If I see a young man who has all the potential in the world and doesn't necessarily have the means, then it comes down to a choice. You can choose to help that kid, or you can choose to ignore him. Somebody took a chance on us, right, and we didn't necessarily have the resources to be able to do things like work with a guy like myself at this stage in life. But for me, I see big picture. I want to have relationships with the guys, and in having relationships, that means there has to be some level of sacrifice on both ends.
Now, but the one thing, I don't want to cut you off, but I have to say that it's not, you have a heart of gold. Everybody knows Bert knows he's got a heart of gold. But there's a lot of kids that, where you are right now, are you in Gilbert?
Yeah, I'm in Gilbert.
Is your training facility in Gilbert?
It's in Phoenix. It's downtown Phoenix.
Okay. I don't know Arizona as well in that area, but like if you were in Chicago, so I'm in Naperville, which is probably like a Gilbert is to Phoenix. What are you, probably about 30 minutes from Phoenix?
Yeah, like 25. Yeah,
25, 30 minutes. So we're kind of like, you're on the outskirts where there's some kids that grow up in Gilbert that might hardly ever go to Phoenix. Just like we have people in Naperville who don't really go to the city of Chicago because you have everything. It's a nice suburb with everything. So if you do it, we have a lot of training facilities out here. And there's people in the city, maybe the trainer here would actually do something for them and give them some free training. They don't even know about it, right? So they're kind of like, they can be forgotten. Like when I grew up, when we played city schools, they didn't have the same equipment. They didn't really have the same coaching technique. But some of those guys made it out because their raw ability was there. I worry about, and this isn't a train station question. This is just kind of a nationwide question. When you hear a stat like that, 12% of the kids have a college. Only 12% of the first person to go to college. So it means most of the kids making it to college have what we would consider a successful household, right? Somebody went to college or doing something. They have some sort of means. They're not probably living in poverty. That wasn't like that. So I think about, hey, where are we going to go? And if it's 12% now, maybe it's going to be even more reduced of a percentage later. So now you have these kids that have no college-educated parents. Where are those kids ending up? How are those kids faring out?
You know, Flo, I look at that, and that's a great question. The thing that I would say is it's up to guys like myself and guys that are in positions of influence to get the word out. And I think a lot of times in the inner city, the kids don't know about guys like myself. They don't know about what I offer. And I think if you are a person that's been in my situation and you've been blessed, then there comes that time where you give back to the community that you came from. And that's when you do the camps. That's when you have opportunities for everybody to come in and be exposed to it, because you don't want to just limit the exposure to just people who can financially afford it.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, you do have a business to run, but at the same time, I was that kid that didn't know. And I would have loved to have known, because I would have tried to do something. If I would have known about something like that, maybe I would have worked, you know, during the off season or during the summer to try to get some money to be able to go to that. It would have meant that much to me to want to be able to do it on my own. And so to those young guys that don't necessarily have the exposure, I just think if you're a guy that's been in that situation, you understand his struggle, then you can do something to maybe level the playing field by giving him an opportunity to interact with you in a way that maybe he wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Oh, that makes sense. You know, you talked about talking about getting exposure and some of the different things. I don't know if you get involved at all with the recruiting process. Are you doing anything with those kids trying to help with recruiting, or you do not have kids at that level yet?
Well, I do have some guys that are currently being recruited. And, you know, the tricky thing about it, Flo, is when I look at it now from these eyes as opposed to, you know, 16, 17-year-old eyes, man, there's a lot of nonsense going on. I mean, there's a lot of posturing and, hey, look what I got and all this other stuff.
We are in a look at me society.
Yeah. And so I try to tell the young guys, I say, look, man, focus on the field. If you do your work on the field, those guys can't help but come. They will come to you. You don't have to go to them. And all this about social media and you know, hey, I got this offer from this school, I got that offer from that school. You can only go to one.
You're right.
So if you handle your business and you take care of what you're supposed to take care of, then you'll have your pick of the litter, and you don't have to worry about going to them. They'll come to you. Trust me, they will.
So, you know, you hit that on the head. Now, the Bertrand Berries of the world, 5 stars. I don't even have 5 stars back then, but you obviously were probably a 5-star guy coming to guys who play with. I think sometimes we give coaches too much credit in college. They're human beings like you and I. You and I could easily be college coach right now at some level, some school somewhere. You know, a lot of college coaches say that they don't follow the social media. But if you go on Twitter right now, and it's one of those things where your son gets to that level, you start looking at it, you end up finding yourself literally through Twitter like it's Facebook and just looking at who's getting offers and whatever. But when you find a coach is following your son, right, and all these coaches are saying that they don't read the hoopla and all that stuff, but if you go to all the, you know, there's a guy named Edgy Tim that writes here locally in Chicago. You know, everybody knows him in Chicago. Then there's a guy, Alan True, and some other different people. They act like they don't read those, but if you watch them on Twitter, they're all following them, right? So they must be reading something. So we are in this look at me society, and people say, you know, my son is kind of a throwback where he doesn't really want to put anything on social media. And I'm kind of from that area of, like, hey, put your head down, work hard, someone will tap you on the shoulder. But the thing is, they're getting rewarded for that look at me because they put the highlight tapes together. They put the big flashing spots. They say that they're going to announce at this time or that time. I see lists like, these are my top 17. No one has top 17 schools right now. I mean, top 5 is almost a stretch. At some point, you narrow it down. There's 2 or 3 schools. I mean, you thought, what were you thinking? You were thinking A&M, I think, right? Notre Dame. What was your other?
Penn State.
Penn State.
Oklahoma.
So you got to 4. You really thought about 4? I thought about Notre Dame and Illinois. I visited Tennessee and Tennessee, UCLA, and North Carolina. But really, I was thinking Notre Dame and Illinois. Like, you know, I could feel like you narrow it down. People say I got top 27 schools. You know, you're not thinking about 27 different schools. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to a restaurant, you're either gonna have the burger or the pizza. You're not reading every single line out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I feel you, Flo. And the funny thing that you say that, I had a visit scheduled to Syracuse, and I didn't go because I knew in my heart that I really didn't want to go to Syracuse. It sounded good because I liked what they were doing as a program, but I wasn't going to go east. I didn't have any feelings towards Syracuse. I didn't have any attachment to them. You know, I didn't feel any sort of kindred spirit, if you will, to Syracuse. So when it really came down to it, it really came down to Notre Dame and Penn State. I had both letters of intent on my dresser when I went to bed, and I said whichever one I dreamt about, that's where I was going to school, and I dreamt of gold, bro.
I'll be honest, though. Hey, okay, so this is my story when we had recruits coming in. I would judge whether we had an opportunity to get somebody based off of the coat that they had. I believe you had like a cardigan sweater. If I remember, you had like one of those little sweater joints. And I was thinking to myself, there's no way we're going to get him. If that's what he considered his warm coat, we're not going to get him here, man. If people come with those little starter jackets, I think, what was the guy's name? He ended up going to LSU, and he played a long time running back, played for New England. What is his name? Real good running back.
Dorsey Levin?
No, he's younger than you. He would have come in. He probably about 2 years behind you. He played for LSU, and he played for the Patriots for a long time. I can't remember his name, but he had on this little starter jacket. I'm like, nope. No way. If he thinks that's a winter coat, he's never felt cold like this before. He didn't have anything better than that. So,
are you talking about Kevin Falk?
Kevin Falk. That's what I remember when he came on his trip.
Kevin Falk.
I was like, there's no way Kevin Falk is coming here with that little coat on. No way. So, you know, it's crazy. But things have gotten so different. You know, I remember we had Tom Lemming's little magazine. You know, that little tri-folded piece of paper you pull out, you see your name, and that was it. Ooh. Nowadays, you know, every day there's an article, you know, written about somebody, and, you know, everyone's doing it. So these kids are entitled, and they know they're entitled, but at the same time, they kind of are starting to understand their worth, which is good and bad. So now that they're changing to, like, this image and likeness is the big thing now that's coming up in 2022. You know, kids can get paid for outside endorsements. They, you know, in some cases, the school can actually pay them. I don't know if they're going to vote on legislation. I look at that as a good thing. You know, they're not taking away from the other student athletes because the universities don't have to pay it. They can go to the local businesses and do it. What's your thoughts on that? I think it's called name, image, and likeness. NIL is what they're calling it.
I think it's about time, Flo. I know a lot of people balk at that whole idea of payers getting paid to play college football, but it's not really about getting paid to play college football. It's about your likeness and your image. In years past, you basically gave up the right of your own image to make money off of it. So
in perpetuity,
you didn't even own yourself.
Yeah.
Which that seems crazy to me.
In perpetuity. Somebody can still sign Bert and Barry. Luckily, we don't have our names on it, but they can still put your number on a jersey and sell it today, and you still get nothing.
Flo, I got a quick story for you, man. If you remember the old bookstore, it was in the middle of the campus in South Quad, right? So I went one night to go get $10 out of the account so I could go get the 10 taco pack at the Taco Bell down the street. You remember the Taco Bell?
Yeah.
So I went there. I put my pen in, and I knew I had the $10, and it said insufficient funds, bro. Man, I was hot. I was upset. I was angry, and I the reason that I didn't have enough money because I had $10 in there, but it was a 50-cent surcharge to get the money out.
Got it.
I didn't have 50 cents.
Yeah, 50 cents.
So listen, Flo. So I walk away mad as all get out. I look up in the bookstore. My jersey's on sale for $40.
You can't even afford to get that?
I can't even afford my own
jersey. I can't even
jersey.
cop my own jersey, man.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
So I really think, man, it's about time that the powers that be have fought this for so long because they have made money hand over fist.
And they find
the players can do nothing about it. And I think now that you kind of level that playing field to a degree where guys can actually make money off their own image, it's never going to be fair because some guys are going to be more popular than others and people are going to have more of a demand than others. And so it's never going to be equal, but it will be fair. So I just think if you can have that, then guys can get creative in creating their own little their value system and bringing things to the table where they can say, hey, I'm worth this. Check this out. Look what I've created. And you can start that entrepreneurship earlier in the college experience than what you see than having to go to the workforce.
That makes sense. I argue right now it's nowhere near fair right now, right? So look, that ship has left the station a long time ago. The Big Ten is paying schools. I don't have my facts 100% right, but it's like $50 million just for checking the mail, right? And if you go to the Big 12 or the Pac-12, sorry, those schools are getting like $30 million. So you have a $20 million delta. Again, we've been on the college tour lately. The Big Ten has the best facilities you've ever seen. The Pac-12 can't do it. The ACC, except for Clemson, they're not doing it yet, right? Because they don't have the money. Coach at Michigan State, I read an article, and this is no shot to any of these coaches that don't want to have a job. They're saying the Pac-12 is so taking equity. The Big Ten, they can't even protect their 4-7 coaches because he was 4-7 at Colorado. And then they paid him $3 million more to come to Michigan State. And they're saying, if our 4-7 coaches aren't safe, what about our top-level coaches, right? And again, that's no slight on that coach. I'm sure, I've heard nothing but great things about him. But I'm just saying, it's already unequal. I actually think the image and likeness will put some more parity in it. And here's my point. You have kids going to Alabama right now. They got all these 5-star kids going to Alabama, and they're all trying to chase Cincinnati, right? They all want to win a national championship, and they think they can do it. So they got these kids that can go somewhere else. Now, it's one thing. They realize not everybody's going to start. They want to go to the league, and they do that. But you take a kid that can go to Alabama and try to fight to become a starter and be a player, or he could go to what's called a U of I and be the man, right? So what comes with being the man? So I think there's going to be some schools that are paying a bunch of people, but I think most schools are going to have, let's call it 5 to 10 kids per team that are really getting paid. A couple on offense, a couple on defense, big names. So that spot is available at U of I. That's not available to Alabama. If you're a 3-star kid going to Alabama, and I'm using those stars loosely, but if you're a 3-star kid going to Alabama, you're never going to get that 5 to 10 kid money that's going there. But that spot's available somewhere else. So now you're going to start picking up some of these guys that would have went better because they can go make money. Because some guys need money. I just saw this basketball player that skipped college. He's going to go to it's not the D League, whatever the other basketball league is now. He's going to make $500,000 to do it. Man, that's a great proposition for some people. They're not going to graduate anyway.
Flo, the thing about it is when you start looking at reasons why kids choose schools, we know that it's not always to just go and have a chance to play. Sometimes you want to go and be with a winner. When you think about the Alabamas and the Clemsons, some of those kids know they're not going to play right away, but they want to go and have a chance to win a national championship because they see the team, they see the roster, they see the schedule, and they say, okay, I got a chance to get a chip out of this deal. I may not start right away, but I know I probably have a couple shiny pieces on my finger once I leave out of here. So if there's always going to be that one school or a few schools are going to get more of the lion's share of better players, because if you've established a culture of winning, people want to go to winners. It's not always about being able to play right away, because some kids, quite frankly, they're just happy to go to school because they know their mom and dad don't have to pay. So there's a lot of different reasons why different kids choose the schools that they go. Some may have their parents went to that school, so they want to carry on the tradition or whatever. Some are just going to the highest bidder, who can give me the most. What you gonna do? Yeah. And then other guys are just like, hey, I just want to be a winner, man. I want to be part of something that's big and that will be remembered forever. So as long as kids are going for different reasons, there's going to always be differences of where kids go and where they choose to play and the reasons why they choose to play.
And I think this just adds another facet that is going to allow some people to make choices based on what's important to them, which is the capitalist society we live in, right? People are going to make choices. They have an opportunity to go out there and choose a school. Maybe it's going to be based on money. Some people are going to need the cash right now. Some people are going to do some different things. But I think it's great. Luckily for me, my son will be that age that all those rules start to come in. So hopefully he can benefit and have it better. Because I tell you right now, every school we go to, everything is better than what we saw. And I thought we had it pretty good at the time we had it. But when you see now, even the lowest program, comparatively speaking, has got way more than we ever thought about having. So these kids have it special. So, hey, that's all right. You out there, some of us have permanent limps. Some of us, have headaches and do whatever. let's get the most out of it you can for your lifestyle in the prime of your life, before things go. So, anyway.
Flo, it's funny, man. When I look at why I chose Notre Dame, I chose Notre Dame because they beat the team that I had really strongly considered going in the bowl game. Mm-hmm. When y'all had beat A&M the first time in the Cotton Bowl, I'm a Texas man, so mm-hmm. we thought Texas A&M was as high as you could get, and when y'all came in there and went roughshod on them, I had to reevaluate. Like, wait a minute, if they doing that to them, I may need to look at this squad. So I started looking at Notre Dame, looking at that squad, and started thinking to myself, like, man, mm-hmm. if I ever had a chance to go there, it looked like they in the mix pretty much all the time. So I chose Notre Dame, to be honest, Rez, because they had a 97% graduation rate, and my mom could watch me play every game on TV.
And so you know what? The reason why things change is now – sorry about that, guys. The reason why things are changing is everybody graduates at a high rate, 80, 85. I mean, there's a couple schools out there that are offenders, but 80 and above. So now it's more now the people that don't graduate are the special case. People are getting good GPAs, and everybody's on TV. And I think that's one of the things that makes Notre Dame have more problems than we had in the past is that it's cold up there. They got more girls there than they did when we were there. Luckily, it's like 50-50. I think it was like 65% dudes when we were there, so that was a little difficult. Coach Holtz had his famous story, hey, if you like pretty women, nice weather, and parties, hey, God bless your ass. Go out and go to Florida State or Miami. But if you want to get 4 years of your life for the next 40, the damn ass, come to Notre Dame. My parents are sold at that. But you know what? Everybody's kind of has that, man. Everyone's starting to get it. Once the NCAA made it a little bit more difficult for people to have low graduation rates, I think you start losing scholarships and you could not go to a bowl game. Now these colleges are like, hey, let's graduate them. So now it's different. But, I think you were a great fit for Notre Dame, type of guy you were coming in. You had a great career. Obviously, it worked out for you. I'm glad we got a chance to play together and got a chance to meet her. We wouldn't be doing this podcast on the drop of the dime. So, anyway, I don't know if you have any closing remarks. I want to thank you for coming out, man. This has been a great time. We're definitely going to have you guys back. Oliver, I hope you feel better. Hopefully it gets better. It's nothing too serious. But, again, appreciate my brothers being able to show up for me on a moment's notice, man. Thanks a lot. Love you, man.
Oh, of course, anytime, man. You always know we're brothers for life, man. Anything you need, I got you, man.
All right, man. And we got the outro now. You want to groove it out. Can you hear that music good or no?
Oh, yeah, I hear it.
Little Isley sounding.
Might as well.
So Oliver, man, he always puts his stuff together great, man. So, anyway, you can sign off whatever, my friend, man. Appreciate you, man. Love you. Take care. Peace.
All right, bro.
All right.
Stay safe out there, man.
No doubt.